Yeah, that's the whole point. Yeah, that's right. Hey, that's right. You're supposed to be leading this tour anyway.
No.
Maybe you can get her to just recite it. I'm good.
Can I
Yeah,
steal
yeah,
it?
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Hey, okay, so who's going to be? We're stalling right now to get the live stream to go. But who's going to be our first person this week to stand up and do the Shema in front of everyone?
Well, there go the rewards in heaven.
Oh my gosh. Let me say it out loud. That's the assistant pastor's wife. Oh my gosh. I can't. What do I get? But anyway, get up here. All right, right here. Okay, and so we're stepping up the requirements. So if she blows it, we go. We all just shake our head no, and we sit her down. It's like being gonged. Okay. All right. So, okay.
I'll just say it. Okay. Shema Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. No.
Hey, congratulations. That was very nice. Okay. So she did the first part of the Shema, but she didn't do the second part that we've added on. Do you know the second part? Okay. So who's next? First part and second part. All right, Angie. Okay, here we go.
Can I just face that way?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, yeah, see, this is... Okay, can I sing it? Because that's...
Anyway, you want to.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך ואהבת לרעך כמוך.
Very nice. That was weak. Okay, that was weak. But it's a shot glass because I don't drink, so I knew you drink. No. And what's great is it has the map of Israel on there for your cheat sheet for tonight, and then a wine bottle opener from the Golan Heights. Okay. Well, I got the assistant pastor's wife over here saying, "What do I get?" And now the pastors we're passing out encouraging drinking and stuff. So this is a crazy group. Okay. Are we good? She's gonna play that.
You gonna play that? Okay. This is just for enjoyment. If you don't recognize the background, it's the Garden Tomb.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Shema Yisrael Adonai Echad Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Shema Yisrael Adonai ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו, שמע ישראל אדוני אחד, שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו, שמע ישראל אדוני אחד. ואהבת לרעך כמוך, ואהבת לרעך כמוך. שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו, שמע ישראל אדוני אחד, שמע ישראל, שמע
What's that? Hello, hello, hello. Thank you, Holly, for that. That was a recommendation from Holly. So you've redeemed yourself. One of the cool things about when we're in the land and the people of the land, they sing scripture all the time. It's not like on the radio and stuff. You'll hear, but it's in Hebrew, obviously, but it's not uncommon. So some of their stuff is just really, really beautiful. So any questions for our trip? I just wanted to do this now. Yes, ma'am.
Are we going to be hiking hillside? I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I have some things I would see if they were okay for the trip. You told me had to have head coverings or some kind of
Yeah, so there is not a place where you technically will need a head covering, even though it's kind of nice to have. But you will need to have something that, if you are in wearing pants or shorts, you'll need something that wraps around your, what do you guys call that? Yeah, what's that little wrap thing? Yeah. What's it called? Could you say that for me? What's it called? Just say what it's
A sarong.
wrong. There we go. And then, so you'll need one of those if you're going to be, if you're wearing a long skirt or a long dress, you're fine. And then to cover your arms, a lot of the ladies will just bring a shawl because it can be hot. And like I said, I've seen people up there where you went. They're not, hey, they're breaking the law, and they let them go, and then they'll just pick somebody like Robin. And they just go, here, wear this jacket. And they make you wear this hot jacket just to show that they are in charge. But no big deal. We just go along, and you can't win. There's too many. Any other questions? Oh, Angie, you were.
I was just wondering, the hike that we did today, are we going to be doing hills like that, just so that we know appropriately how to train? I mean, I usually walk like a flat neighborhood.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll be doing plenty of flat walking and plenty of that in Jerusalem. That is what we do. It's just up and down, up and down. And so that's doesn't necessarily mean that steep, because there's a couple sections that's pretty steep. But there's a couple of hikes, if you choose to do those hikes, that are much more strenuous than that. So those ones will give you the gauge. We'll go, okay, we're going to do this. We have this potentially strenuous hike. If you want to go, come over here. And then even then, when you come over here, and I go, Mike, you're not going to make it. And so, and then and so I'll just tell you, right? I'll just go, I don't know. You've been struggling the last few days. Save yourself and ride the bus, and then you'll feel better 3 or 4 days down the road because stuff happens. Yes, ma'am.
Looking at me.
And I don't know if I missed whatever, but on the bus, because we take a bus to different places, are we going to be able to leave our stuff on the bus? So let's say I have a shawl, a jacket, I want to leave it, and then the next trip, or the next trip we need it. Okay, so we kind of have it for the day, and then you just take everything off.
Right. Okay, so the question was, because I have to remember we're streaming, the question was, is the bus basically safe? Can you leave your stuff on the bus when we're out doing a site? The bus is completely safe. The driver is with the bus at all times, so you can leave your stuff on there. There will be, so like in the morning, it might be, maybe it's chilly, and you want to bring a little jacket, then you can leave your jacket, and while we go out on the site, with no problem. Now, there's a couple of times when we're in the old city, then we'll tell you, hey, take everything that you want for the day with you. This is the last time you will see the bus. But we'll let you know, right? And then you just bring your backpack, and those are those days where we're doing Hezekiah's Tunnel, and then we're walking back up to the southern steps, and then we'll be in the old city. So there's no place to park the bus that we can get to get your stuff back off. So that would be that. Yes, Betty.
On the list, it talks about protein bars and stuff like that. Is that something that we can bring from home, or would we be able to get that?
Okay, so the question is, should you bring protein bars or snacks with you? I'm going to talk Mike into us buying some, so we'll have a little extra supply. But yes, bring your favorite protein bar or your favorite snacks with you.
What do you bring?
I bring paydays, and I'm telling you, you guys, paydays you're going to be like, man, Joey, that payday looks really good, and my chocolate protein bar is melted all over the place, and I can't even lick it off my fingers. So yeah, paydays are fantastic, but feel free to bring that kind of stuff. So one, that you just have a snack, and two, it's kind of comforting for me. I just like to chew on them, you know. And I bring licorice and suckers and different things like that.
Say hard candies. That's
Yes.
what I went on. I was passing out hard candies left and right, because it's nice to suck on something.
Yeah. Because of the time change, all of a sudden at 10 o'clock, and we're not going to eat till 1, you're going to be like starving. Well, it's because you should be home having dinner, and your body is still telling you that you should be having dinner, even though you just had breakfast and you ate way too much, but all of a sudden you're hungry again. And so that's just your body, and you haven't acclimated yet. More questions? Oh, yes, Melissa.
I'm just curious, for those who would ride, will we be able to stop somewhere to maybe get like a small print on us, like a tattoo?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so the question, I should pass this one off to Pastor Mike. So the question is, will there be a chance to get a small tattoo when you're in the land? That's. So just so you know, this is not the first person that's asked me about this question. And so it's a legitimate question. There will not be time when we're touring. There may be time once we get back. So we'll have to check and see how long one of those shops stays open till. So if we get back, let's say 5, and you've hey, I found a place, I talked to the guy, and he's going to stay open till 7. Then once we're back, you're free to go do whatever you want. Yeah, because they know tourist, right? I know they've been traveling all day, and yeah. Yeah, and oh, there we go. We got I'll go with you. All right. Whoa, look, we got all these people. Okay. Just remember that tattoos are permanent. No names on the tattoos, right? Any other questions? Yes, Mary.
It seems to me like there's some kind of a telephone thing that you can get, so you can get your emails and stuff like that from home. But it's just, you have to sign up for it.
Right. The question is about your cell phone and getting calls and text. You can get a plan. Do you remember the name of the plan? It's on the website. If you'd like, you can get a certain amount of internet and cell time. However, with Verizon, just check with your carrier. If you just call them up and go, hey, I want to sign up for the international plan. There's no cost, only when you use it, and it's $10 every time you use it for 24 hours. Right, and so the problem is that if you get texts, like if you're trying to skimp, I just plan on using it every day. But if you're trying to beat the system, and then your buddy texts you, and you read it and answer it, then it just costs you $10. Okay, so but yeah.
As soon as you turn, I have Verizon, as long as you talk to Verizon and they set up the international thing, as soon as you turn your phone on, it's gonna text you, and it's gonna give you a time. It's gonna say you have travel pass for 24 hours. So if you're thinking, oh, I just wanna have it on for 24 hours, just make sure you turn it back on airplane mode before the next day. If you don't care, you don't mind if it charges you every single day, you can move on the whole time. You get like, you get a gig.
Yeah,
A gig of data a day, and then calling and texting should be all. It's just that you can use your phone like you do here.
Yeah.
If you have Verizon. I don't know about here.
Yeah, and then I forget the name of the company, is Smart. But anyway, the problem with getting the card from them is it changes your number. And so that's an issue as well. So I just tell people, just plan on using Verizon or whoever you have, get their international plan, find out what that is, and just plan on paying an extra $100, and then you don't have to worry about it, right? But it is amazing. As soon as you fly, if that thing is on, and it'll go, welcome to Turkey. And you're like, what? How do you know I'm in Turkey? Because it tracks you, and then as soon as you fly into, if you have it on, and you're not supposed to have it on the airplane, but if you do, and it'll tell you as soon as you get into Israeli air, it'll come on and say, welcome, you have 24 hours to use, and you're on. Okay, does that make sense? Yes, ma'am.
I think that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but in the hotels and on the bus, right, there's Wi-Fi, is that correct? If you keep it in airplane mode, you can still use the Wi-Fi for texting. You can't use it for email or anything else. So if that's all you are interested in doing, we just got back from Japan, we were texting the family all the time, when we had Wi-Fi.
Right.
And no charges.
Right, so Wi-Fi, you can text. Here's the caveat with the Wi-Fi on the bus. All of us want to use the Wi-Fi at the same time. So you may not have Wi-Fi available even though there's Wi-Fi on the bus. Some of you, I bet Kevin, will probably have a hotspot of his own. So that's an option as well. But that's the problem that we run into is Joe will be on Facebook, I'm sure, and taking up all the Wi-Fi. They call them Wi-Fi hogs. Is that what they used to call those? So. AT&T, no charge. International. Awesome.
Well, at least it is good.
Okay, awesome. There is not a restroom on the bus. Let's talk about restrooms real quick. So there are places We call it porcelain. And if you hear, okay, there's porcelain available at the next stop. And our little saying is, go when you can, not when you have to. So I would recommend you go when you can, not when you have to. There will be other places that we call it outdoor restrooms, because you are out in the bushes, right? And there will be a couple times like that if you have an emergency, we take the guys, we go over in this corner, and the girls go over in this corner, and we hear lots of laughter and fun times, and it's quite amusing, but it's like camping. That's a great way to put it. And the reason that is because this is not just a regular tour, as in you're going to be on the bus, we're going to drive to a spot, and we're going to go into the church, and then we go to the bathroom and get back on the bus. Will be times where we're out in the land, and there's no restrooms around. Otherwise, we get you there. But most of the time, we're very cognizant of it, especially for the ladies, and I have a little deal with them. I always go, if you have to use the restroom, we'll have a little code word, and you just come up and tell me, because for some reason they're nervous about telling Ronan I have to go to the restroom. Just come up and go, hey Joey, I really got to go. And then, because I know what it's like to really have to go, so I will make Ronan stop. I'll go, hey dude, we got to find a restroom right now. So let's next gas station, we'll make an emergency stop. And then I can get off and go to the bathroom and not look bad. So I'll say, right? I'll say it's for Kathy. I think she's going to be my person. Kathy's got to go to the restroom again. I can't believe it. Okay, maybe I got to find somebody else that's got a weak bladder. Nevaeh? Oh yeah, Nevaeh. Okay. Any more questions? Yes, ma'am. Okay. Oh, right. Okay, so there's going to be times, the question was, how long are our bus rides? When we're in the Galilee, the bus rides are very quick. When we're in Jerusalem, the bus rides are very quick because we get off the bus and then we may not see the bus again. However, when we're in the southern portion of the country, the bus rides, and even coming from the Shafela, for those of you that have done your homework, the bus rides can be a couple hours to just get us from our location to the next hotel. We're going to do a teaching here in one of these weeks because you guys are all going to fall asleep on this bus ride, and you're going to miss a whole section of the country. And so we're going to do a teaching just to make that up. But so that ride's about 2.5 hours. So there's a couple of, just one or two of those. Otherwise, everything's usually, we make the stops like 30 minutes from the Dead Sea to Masada, and then 30 minutes from Masada to En-Gedi, and then 30 minutes from En-Gedi to Jericho, and then from Jericho to Galilee could be a couple hours. So, but we do our best to do those stops. More? Great.
Okay, we're going to go through lesson number 2, and if we do well, we'll try to do 3 also. Okay, so if you've already scanned it, checked it out, then it'll just be reinforcement for you. And we're going to do some maps that are handouts. So Joey wants you to cheat while the answers are up there. Fill them in. What? Yeah, no. There's actually a digital online test, but don't worry about it. That's just to give you something to monitor your progress on. But whoops. Need some more?
So say, do we have enough?
Está bien? Yeah. Ready, set? I think we're good.
Hello and welcome to lesson number 2. Before we get started, once again, we want to make sure that you take the time to read the sections that we have laid out for you from the Moody Atlas of the Bible. Again, these are going to play into our discussion, so if you haven't read them, please take the time to stop, read them, and then begin on with this lesson. For lesson number 2, the objectives that we're going to try to complete are understanding and labeling the main topography zones in Israel, memorizing the Hebrew vocabulary that we have, and understanding the definitions from the list. We're going to work with the geography of Israel. First off, as we begin, you should have had a map that you were able to download so that you can fill in these different locations as we go through. Not only are we going to be talking about a particular location, but we're also going to give you a little word picture to remember it with. On your tests and quizzes, you'll be needing to label these maps with these locations as well as the word associations that go with them. First off, as we make our way across here, I want you to see the coastal plain. That comes right off of the Mediterranean. We've got the coastal plain area. When we think coastal plains, I want you to think Philistines. That's where the Philistines live, in the 5 big Philistine cities. Next, you've got an area here where my cursor is showing you is the Shephelah. Shephelah in Hebrew means low hills. And this is what we're going to remember with the word battles. When you think about the David and Goliath or Joshua with the battle where the sun stands still, or any of these major battles, they're going to happen right here in the Shephelah, in this area that's kind of a buffer zone between the Philistines and where most of the Jewish people, the Hebrew people, will be living. This is where the tribe of Dan is located. Next, we have the mountains. This is the Judah Mountains. This would be the location of Jerusalem. When we think Judah Mountains, we want to think Jerusalem, but we also want to think the word God's people. The next section that we're going to be looking at here is the wilderness, also known as the Judah Wilderness. Highlighting it right here with my cursor to show it to you. And in this area, it's right on the outskirts of the mountains, and it's where the desert begins. You have the town of Bethlehem right out here. This is the area where the shepherd takes his sheep. And it's also the area, too, when you hear of Jesus going out into the wilderness to be tempted, it would be right in this area. So we want to remember shepherds. We also want to remember temptation when we think of wilderness. Finally, over here to the right, we get into the Rift Valley. And the Rift Valley is a giant scar in the earth that goes all the way from Turkey down into Africa. But the area that we care most about is right down here. This is the Dead Sea, and as you can see, the Dead Sea makes its way up the Jordan River to the Sea of Galilee. So when we're thinking Rift Valley, we want to make sure you're thinking of the idea of the lowest place on earth, the Dead Sea. Those are the important parts. And also you've got Jericho and En-Gedi down in this area. Finally, towards the south is the Negev. The Negev Desert is the area where the children of Israel wandered for 40 years. So as we begin to think of the Negev, think of wandering. Coastal plain, Shephelah, mountains, Judah Wilderness, Rift Valley, and the Negev. Here's the map that I was talking about. If you haven't downloaded it yet, feel free to do that because we want you to fill in those regions. We're going to go through them again one by one, and we want you to be able to write these in. There's going to come a point in your quizzes and tests where you're going to need to be able to label these different regions. As you're going through Israel on your tour, you want to know the region you're in and what happened there. This is also going to help you when you're reading the text to be able to picture where things are and the terrain in which they happen. First off, the star in this map represents Jerusalem, just so that you can keep a concept of where Jerusalem is. First part that we talked about is the coastal plain. And remember, with the coastal plain, what we're dealing with here is the Philistines. When you think coastal plain, think Philistines. Next up is Shephelah. We talked about this before. Shephelah means low hills. So you're making your way into the low hills. And this is where all the battles are going to happen. David and Goliath, sun standing still, things like that. When you think battle, most of them are going to happen in Shephelah. Next area is the Judah Mountains. Judah Mountains, we're thinking God's people, and that's where Jerusalem is. Then we move to the Judah Wilderness. Judah Wilderness, again, is temptation, or we're going to remember the shepherds, because Bethlehem is right on the outskirts right here. This is where the shepherds go. Also, this is where the temptation of Christ and where he heads off into the desert. Finally, we move down into the Rift Valley, and then we get the Negev. So all again, we have coastal plain, Shephelah, Judah Mountains, Judah Wilderness, and the Rift Valley with the Negev to the south. I want to help you out a little bit more. I'm going to show you some modern-day pictures. Here's the coastal plain. Again, as you're looking here, you're seeing that the Philistines lived by the ocean. They were sea-bearing people. They lived off of their trade, and they also lived off of the products that they brought out of the ocean. So the coastal plain. As we move, you begin to see with the Shephelah. The Shephelah is the best part of the land for agriculture. It's the area in between the mountains and being close to the salt of the sea. So you get an area that is very fertile, especially today with the way Israel has used it to make it a place to really produce majority of their food. And so the Shephelah is the low hills. You begin to see in the background the Judah Mountains beginning to start. Next up we have the Judah Mountains. What I want you to look here at the cursor as I bring the cursor in is this right here. I know it's tough to see. I'll magnify it a little bit. This is the Temple Mount. So you can see how quickly, right down here, the Shephelah ends and how quickly the Judah Mountains begin. And what you're going to see in the background here is, of course, the wilderness. So all of these areas move very quickly, only a couple miles usually. You can see here the wilderness, and at the bottom here, the end of the Judah Mountains, and then heading out into the wilderness. We talked about the temptation of Christ. Also, this is where the shepherds are. And Rift Valley, pretty amazing shot. As you look here, the end of the wilderness, and then dropping down into the lowest place on earth with the Dead Sea down here. This next picture, in fact, gives you a good view. You see the Jordan River coming down into the Rift Valley, coming down into the Dead Sea, and the Dead Sea not having any place for it to go. Judah Wilderness is right up here on the top. We got the mountains, we got the wilderness over here. And like I told you before, you've got some key cities down here. You've got the fortress city of Masada, you've got En-Gedi, you've got Qumran, where the Dead Sea Scrolls were found, and you've got Jericho right over here. Just giving you another good view of the mountains down to the wilderness, and then making our way down here to the Rift Valley. As we head south, we get the Negev. And the Negev is just another good word for talking about the desert. And when we think Negev, I want you to be thinking 40 years, the wandering. This is where the children of Israel spent their time, out in this desolate area. So geography-wise, coastal plains, remember Philistines. Shephelah means low hills and battles. Judah Mountains, God's people. Wilderness, we want to remember temptation. Also, don't forget the shepherds, they're out there too. Rift Valley, lowest place on earth. Jericho, Dead Sea. And then Negev, we've got the wandering, or the 40 years of the children of Israel being out in the desert. A couple of last things to add with this is, as you saw the Shephelah, it's great land. It's where they're doing all their farming. The reason why you're not going to find shepherds there is because you don't want the sheep eating the good land. You don't want the sheep grazing through all of the food that you've set up. So the sheep go out to the desert, and we'll be talking more about that in future lessons. All right, let's go over vocabulary for lesson number 2. First one is bema. Bema means raised platform. This can either be seen in a synagogue, which we'll show you, as well as a lot of times it can be a place where a king sits for judgment. Dereshah. In the Hebrew context, Dereshah is a short sermon. So after someone would get up and they would read from the Torah, they would give a short sermon or interpretation of what that section meant, usually between 4 to 10 minutes long. Gan. Gan means garden. Bet Shemen is an olive press. Chaluk is an outer garment that a person might wear. Hasidat or Hasidic means piety. And what you're going to see when we talk more about it is the Hasidic Jews who live today up in Jerusalem. Shalom can mean hello, goodbye, or peace. And it's the common term used when you're just talking to somebody and saying hello or goodbye. Yom Tov means good day, and Tov means good.
Okay, some of that stuff is going to be new to you. Try to grab a hold of it, because we're going to be on sites where we're going to be like in a synagogue, a ruin of a synagogue, and we'll be able to point out those different parts of the synagogue. And then some of the passages that we will read as we're there will just like leap off the page to you. You'll be going, oh my gosh. When Jesus read the scroll, and you'll see it in the setting where he would have read the scroll of Isaiah, where he's explained to them that he's the Messiah. and it's the scroll, and it's part of a normal service, and it was already scheduled, so that's the day that he showed up and to read that scroll. And it's just, it'll make so much more sense to you if you understand these little details like the bema seed, and we'll talk about the seed of Moses and the structure of the synagogue. We'll get all that stuff, and it'll start to just give you all the background so that it fills out the story for you. One of the things that I'm sure you'll hear it multiple times, on the map, it's just one of those illustrations that you go, it's very cool. The Sea of Galilee in the north, Jordan River flows south down to the Dead Sea. Two bodies of water, two primary bodies of water in the land, and they're as opposite as they could be. The Sea of Galilee is full of life, fish, fishing's there, all the people live around the outside, and then you go, the Dead Sea, it's the same water, the water that comes from the Jordan, or from Galilee down through the Jordan. It's the exact same water, but it's completely dead. And you go, well, what's the difference? Well, one has an inlet and an outlet. The Sea of Galilee, the water comes in and it flows out. The Dead Sea, it just goes in. It doesn't go anywhere, it doesn't do anything, it just stays there. And it's one of those images, visual pictures, you go, that's the way we want our lives to be. We're receiving from the Lord. We're taking in the living water, we're taking in His Word, but we also have an outlet. It's not just something we just take it in and hold on to it, because that leads to stagnation, constipation, death. So just great picture. So let's see, we got it.
Is a bema, or raised platform, that is in the front of a gate city where kings would sit, and they would actually have a platform to sit amongst their subjects and to do judgments. This slide is of a Get Shemen, or an olive press, like we talked about before. But you can see here, when I'm using my cursor, that we have a grinding wheel. And so this grinding wheel, you'd take the olive, put it in here, and you would grind it around until it would smash it into a pulp. You take the pulp, and then you would put it in a basket of sorts, and you would put it underneath this white big brick here. And you can't see it down below, but there's an area that would, as this rock would come down onto the pulp, it would crush out all the juice out of it, and you'd get all the olive oil, and you'd be able to capture it. And then you would take that, and they'd be able to sell it. So this is an olive press and a grinding wheel. And this is in an area called Capernaum, which I'm sure on your trip you're going to have a chance to see this exact picture. Next slide we have here is a Gan. And again, a Gan is a terraced hillside. And you can see it here down below. When we take a look here, you see that this area here is a garden. And the garden is set into the side of this hillside. And what they would do is they'd dig out, and you'd see here they'd build a wall. And then you've got another Gan, another terraced hillside section here where they would plant. And then again, they build a wall, and they make their way up. So if each family in the area would have a little bit of an area, which would be their garden, where they'd have their different trees and vegetables and things that they would grow. Couple of definitions that you'll be going over and you'll need to know. Ashtoreth, Bel, Beelzebub, Canaanite, Canaan, Dagon, High Place, and Topeth. Remember, you can use the glossary of words that you downloaded hopefully already with the class, and you want to make sure you know these, because for the test you'll be tested on these definitions as well as the different vocabulary words we've gone over. This concludes lesson number 2. Go back, make sure you understand the content. You need to have done the reading that you were assigned for this lesson, and then go ahead and move on to lesson 3. And again, make sure you do the reading that's assigned for lesson 3 before you go through the slides.
Okay. Anybody here got a farming background? Farming, grew up on farm? No, none of us? A little bit, Bakersfield? Yeah. If you saw the Gan, those little walled garden type things, I'm sure you probably realize it's like they build the walls out of the rocks that are in the soil. So they basically clear as much as they can out of the farming area, and what do you do with it? Well, they build walls around it. So if you pay attention, you realize it's like, man, it looks like that's a really rocky country, and it really is. But there's good soil in between, and so It's just something you look at it and you go, oh, look at that. They built some walls. And it's like, well, no, they actually had to pull all those rocks out of there so that they could actually farm. And you know, it's you see it around the world in a lot of different places, but that's part of the picture there. Okay, anybody not get their details on the geography? Anybody didn't take advantage of it? Okay, everybody's good? Okay. The pagan deities that were listed there, Ashtoreth, Baal, Dagon, all those guys, I know for some of us it's like, what do I care about those things? Well, they have unique characteristics, unique attributes that were particularly troublesome, and you know, the Scripture talks about being ensnared by the devil. There were things about each one of those different deities that appealed to the Israelis, and it's part of a tremendous lesson that they were supposed to destroy those guys when they came into the land, and they sort of did it. It's a really insightful picture of partial obedience, because what they did is they drove the Canaanites to submission but didn't wipe them out, and as a result, exactly what God warned them about: if you don't do this, then your children are going to be seduced by these gods. And so it would be worth your time to just get to be familiar with them a little bit, because they have unique characteristics for each one that you go, oh, I could see how this would appeal to people, you know. And it's really a sad part of the whole history of the Old Testament, how frequently they were ensnared by these pagan gods. So part of the story. And I think you got to get it out of the reading. That's the place to find that. So, you ready, Melissa? Any questions? Yeah, Jojo. Okay, so that's simpler probably than the massive reading. So, everybody hear that? The glossary of terms that's part of your part of this assignment there, where you can go on the website. It has the glossary of terms, and so you want to get familiar with that, because it's got those pagan deities, Ashtoreth and Baal and all that stuff defined for you. So, okay, you or me?
Hello and welcome to lesson number 3. As usual, make sure that you have taken the time to read from your new Moody Atlas of the Bible, going through the different sections we have laid out for you, as these are going to be very helpful for today's lesson. As we make our way through lesson 3, what we're trying to work through is understanding and labeling the Via Maris. You're going to notice that in your book it's called the Great Trunk Road, main cities and valleys in the areas, and understand the main parts of a tell. We'll talk through what a tell is in a few minutes. Memorize the vocabulary for basic Hebrew and learn the definitions from the list. What we have on our first slide is basically a map of different trade routes during the first century. Most of these are created by the Roman Empire, and as they expanded, they needed to be able to trade. The thing you're going to notice here is you're going to see a lot of different cities that you recognize. You know, you've got Philippi up here, Thessalonica, but as you come down, you're going to see Ephesus, make your way down here to Tarsus, Antioch, and when you make your way going south, you're going to come down to Caesarea Philippi and make your way down into Israel. You've got Asia Minor in the north, and you've got Egypt down below, and so this area is going to become a major trade route. And going through Israel becomes a strategic area. So if you control Israel, you kind of control that land bridge between these two big entities. And we're going to talk through that a little bit again as we move forward, is that God puts his people in a specific place where the world is going to continually be going back and forth. And it's amazing as you read through history, you notice that Israel, even though it's this tiny little nation, has an effect on so many other people. And again, it's because God puts it in the crossroads of its time. This is a map from your book. And what I like about this map is, again, it shows all the different trade routes. Over here on the outskirts, you're going to see an area that is kind of it's called the Patriarch Highway, going through the top up here. Over here on the right, you've got the King's Highway. We're going to talk more about that in a little bit. It was a major area that going on the opposite side of the Rift Valley from Israel. You've got over here is what we're going to call the Via Maris, but in your book, you're going to notice right in this area here, it calls it the Great Trunk Road. So when you're reading in your book and you read Great Trunk Road, be thinking Via Maris as well. Via Maris is just a little bit easier way for us to say it, and I think as I've traveled through Israel and through the Middle East, it's the word that's the term that's used more often than Great Trunk Road. On this picture here, it is labeled the Via Maris, and all that means is the way of the sea. And I want you just to see again that it's a trade route that comes down through Damascus, makes its way through Israel, comes down by the Sea of Galilee, passing a major city called Hazor, Megiddo, which I'm sure you've heard of, Gezer, and then makes its way south, heading down to Egypt. So this is going to be the trade route where any trade coming from the north going to the south is going to come down. You can either send it by a ship or you can bring it by land. And if you're going to bring it by land, you're going to come right through Israel, unless you take the road that we're going to talk about called the King's Highway. But this road right here is the easier road to come down if you're coming from the north. As we continue on with the lesson, this slide here shows you the cities of Hazor, Megiddo, and Gezer. Now, in your reading, you are noticing that Solomon becomes a very, very wealthy person. And the reason for that is because he controls the trade route. If you control the road, you control the trade. You have the taxes. You have the ability to make a lot of money. And so what are set up are called gate cities, or cities that protect the road. Hazor, Megiddo, Gezer, and a few more that we're going to talk about that are right there on the Via Maris. Now, with even Solomon, it's his relationship with Egypt. Egypt comes up and conquers Gezer. If you read in the text in the Old Testament, you're going to notice that Solomon doesn't even control it. He's not powerful enough to. And so as he's going to marry one of the Pharaoh's daughters, Egypt comes up, conquers Gezer, and gives it to him as a wedding present. And so he controls this part of the Via Maris. And he's going to continue to control his way up with Megiddo and Hazor. So if you can control these cities, you control trade. Now, you should have for download, and if you haven't downloaded it already, is a map. That's just a basic area here of the Israel, kind of like the one where we're doing the Shephelah and the coastal plains and all of those on. Because what I want you to be able to label and see here is the gate cities. Now, the reason why we call them gate cities is for the fact that if we had a star sitting here about in this area right here, this would be near Jerusalem. And just like today, just like in ancient times, the way that you get to a city is the easiest route. And so from the coast going up to the mountains is to follow these valleys right here. So you have the Elon Valley, and you've got the Sorek Valley, and you've got the Elah Valley and Lachish. And so these different valleys lead all up towards Jerusalem. So we call these gate cities because as you're coming down the Via Maris, these are very important cities because the Via Maris comes right through here, but also these cities protect Jerusalem as the capital. So when you think of Jerusalem, you need to think of the gate cities. And you'll notice as you read through the text and as you get to Israel and study, is that every time a conquering army comes in, you wonder why, they don't go straight for Jerusalem. Well, they've got to take out all the cities on their way down. So they march from the north coming down, they take out Megiddo, they take out Hazor, they take out Gezer, they take out Bet Shemesh. And then you say, well, if you get
One of those maps, if you want to label in your map that you have in front of you right now. And the reason why is that, hey, just make room. Just make a mess because you're going to do it again, and we want you to know why. Every one of these valleys and these cities, you are going to read about in your Bible. And so they're important for when we're in the Sorek Valley. We're going to be on the site, and I'm going to go, hey, where are we? And you're going to go, I don't know. And I'm going to say, we're in the Sorek Valley. And then you're going to immediately go to this map in your head and go, oh, I know where we are. Right? And then all those cities, something very important in the Bible happened. And so they're just not random cities that you don't need to know. Bet Shemesh. What happened in Bet Shemesh, Mike? Right? Samson and Delilah. Where's Ajalon, where the sun stood still? And he'll talk about them, but they're important spots.
Azekah. Anybody need time? busy writing?
Get to Gezer, why don't you just make your way up to Jerusalem and take out Jerusalem? Why is it that they work their way from Gezer to Bet Shemesh to Azekah to Lachish? And the reason for that is, you know what, Jerusalem ultimately is not the prize. The prize for these conquering cities is the Via Maris. So not only are they going to take out Jerusalem just to say that they own the capital and they own the area, but they're going to take out all of the trade entities that are there. So if you take out Gezer, Bet Shemesh, Azekah, Lachish, you've taken all of their ability to make money. So you can take all these cities out too. But if these cities fall, Jerusalem is vulnerable. So these are going to be major spots where Solomon, Hezekiah, all the different kings of Israel are going to build them up so that it can protect them as invading armies come in. So for future with quizzes and tests, you're going to want to make sure that you know these different cities. You want to know that Gezer is the first one out of these four. You're going to want to know the order they come in. And as well, you want to know that the valleys that they're associated with. And just like we did with the, Shephelah and saying low hills and battles, we're going to do the same thing with these. So when you think of Gezer, you need to associate that with the Elam Valley. And this is where Joshua has the battle where the sun stands still. So when you think of Gezer, think of Elam Valley, think of sun standing still. Bet Shemesh, this is the place where Samson's from. It's the Sorek Valley. So when you think of Bet Shemesh, think of Sorek Valley and also remember Samson. Azekah. Azekah is right there in the Valley of Elah. And the most famous thing that we all know about that happens in the Valley of Elah is David and Goliath. So Azekah, Valley of Elah, and David and Goliath. And finally, Lachish, this is going to be your easiest one. The city of Lachish is in the Valley of Lachish, and this is the story of Sennacherib. And if you remember, he comes down, and he's going to conquer this whole area. He's going to take out all the gate cities. Then he's going to go up to Hezekiah and basically say, hey, I'm here to kill you and take Jerusalem. And God's going to send the angel of death that's going to just annihilate them. And crazy, awesome story. You're going to be able to stand in the place where God, again, takes care of his people when it totally looks like it's not going to happen. So Gezer, Elam Valley, sun stands still. Bet Shemesh, the Sorek Valley, Samson. Azekah is the Valley of Elah, and that's David and Goliath. And Lachish is in the Valley of Lachish, and you're going to remember Sennacherib. When you get to Israel, one of the most important terms that you're going to need to work with is the word tel. Now what a tel is, it's an area where civilization after civilization has built themselves up. Now, you can get to certain tells that have 26 layers of civilization on them. So the question comes, why would people continue to build in a certain location? You have battles, a place will get destroyed. People will come back, they'll bury over the top of the destroyed city, and then rebuild another city. We want to look at that because as you get to Israel, you're going to see a tell almost everywhere you go. And these are going to be excavation sites where archaeologists are digging through layers and layers of civilizations, making their way from present day all the way down to the time of Solomon, David, or even pre. Now, here's the tell Lachish. And you can see this here, that Lachish it's got some farmland down below, and then it's this mound. Now, most tells were not as high as they are now. It's been over years and years that sediment and debris and things like that build the mountain up. And so it probably was a high ground to start with, but what you see today could be much higher than the actual location was when it was first built. Your book says that tells form because they need a few different key things. It says that if you're going to have a city, you need water, of course, natural resource, regional and local topography, and communication. Now, while you're reading that, it kind of explains it in your book, but I want to make it just a little bit easier because when you're in Israel, I want it to just be real simple. Why do people build in the same place? That's because they need water, they need food, it needs to be defensible, and they need to have a way to trade. So most of these main cities that have tells that are very big and have 16 to 26 layers of civilization on them are there because there's a water source. And when you're in the Middle East, water is the most important thing, so you need a spring. You got to have food. So most of these places that you're going to see are going to have agricultural land near them so that they could be raising crops, things like that. And then it's going to be defensible, so it'll be a higher ground than the area around it. So you might have the food area down below where you're raising your crops, but your city would be up on top of the defensible area. And then a way to trade. You got to be able to make money. You got to be able to have an income of some sort. So most of these important cities are going to be right alongside the Via Maris. A final piece to this is pretty common sense, and it's across the board. You might hear your real estate officer tell you this all the time. Location, location, location. When it comes to cities in the ancient times, the same thing's true. a location is the most important thing. And so you need some basic pieces to make a city work. In the Middle East, you don't always have the ease of bringing water into a location that doesn't have it. So when you look around, location, 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 you're going to rebuild in places where these things exist. Remember, water, food, defensible, and a way to trade. I guarantee you'll probably see that again on a test somewhere.
That was a
Vocabulary
hint.
for lesson 3. Let's go through the basic Hebrew.
I just said that's a hint when he says you'll probably see it on the test.
First one is chavarua. Chavarua is a group or a fellowship. So it's a group of people or a fellowship of people. Chazak means strong or strengthened. Hoshiana, Hoshiana, deliver us. You've heard Hosanna. Hoshiana is the actual Hebrew way of saying it. Kanaf. Kanaf means corner or wing, and you're going to see that when we get to Israel talking about, when we talk about eagle's wings, we talk about the corner of a garment. That's kanaf. Kippah means skull cap. You've probably heard it by the Yiddish version of it, which would be yarmulke. But in Hebrew, the word for a hat that goes on your head that you'll see the Jewish people working is kippah. Kippah. Next one is maim chaim. Maim chaim means living water. We're going to talk about this a lot, I guarantee it, because water is such a big deal in the Middle East, and God calls himself, Jesus calls himself living water. A couple of words that you'll use just talking with people around you. Boker Tov means good morning. So you're going to probably be getting up early every morning to see the most that you can. You're going to be saying Boker Tov. Erev Tov means good evening. And then when you're ready to go to bed, you're going to use Laila Tov. Shabbat Shalom is going to be the way that you greet people at sundown on Friday to sundown on Saturday. Basically it means happy Saturday or blessed Saturday. Shabbat Shalom. And then Israel is just Israel. Definitions for lesson number 3. Again, you can check your work by going to the glossary of terms that we gave you. Also, feel free to look it up on the internet or in a book. I think you'll learn more by spending some time working with these words. But Armageddon. Armageddon is going to have to do with a place called Har Megiddo. And we talked about the city of Megiddo, and in Hebrew, Har means hill. So Armageddon is just the Hebrew way, if you were to spell it out, of saying the city or the hill of Megiddo. Tel. We talked about that today, so you should have a good feeling of that. Via Maris means the way of the sea, but make sure you understand the Via Maris. King's Highway, we only mentioned that for just a second, but that's the other road. It shows up in your book on the page. It shows the different trade routes. King's Highway is to leaving the Mediterranean and going to the right. It's on the other side near the country of Jordan, present day, over on the Rift Valley side. Har, I just mentioned with Armageddon, is hill. And then standing stones. So you want to take a look and find out what those are. Once you finish this, go over this lesson. Make sure that you take the time to understand it. And then you're going to move on to lesson number 4. Do the reading before you go to that, and we'll see you there.
Okay, so the short lessons, they're pretty straightforward. Some of the stuff is obviously new terminology for you. I would assume some of it is anyway. Some of it might be a little bit familiar to you because of just being in church and getting Bible studies. But try to pick up those details. It's going to add depth to the stories as we go there. I mean, the Philistines, perpetual enemies, seafaring people, right along the coast, you know, the interactions with David and the Philistines, and really just the enemies that they were for a long time for Israel. And you can understand it's like they got the sea access and they got the good ground, and then these Israelites, these Hebrew people, move in, and there's hostility there, and it's crazy when we do one of the Bible studies, standing on a site where you can look from where David was and where Samson was and look down, and it's like within, I mean, we'd say walking distance to where the Philistine cities were, and you go, no wonder these guys were always harassing each other, why they were always harassing the Israelis. And so it's just, it'll bring a lot of that stuff to just clarity for you, and it'll make it really interesting. So
Good? Okay, so what's really great is you have access to this. You can go over it and over it as much as you want, right? So that's an easy one. The reason I'm having you do it here is to just reinforce that you actually wrote it down. It helps you to learn, right? Because most of us would just watch it and go, oh, but just by writing it down helps. And then as we're doing these, if you have a question, put your hand up and we'll stop it right where it is. I've been there a lot of times, and I learned so much from you guys, from your questions. That it's amazing. Like I've never even thought of that. I've been here all these times, and I've never thought of that before. So please interact and ask questions. And yes, Marianne. I'll take a look. Okay. Yeah, you broke it. Maybe you get a free one. Oh, we're going to make a lesson, all right. We'll make it really hard. Okay, I'll take a look. I haven't gone back through it lately. It's like I said. I think I told you guys this is the old curriculum, and the new curriculum is being built right now. We have it, but this is so good, the stuff on here, that I didn't want to discard it. And so I even told Rich, the owner of the company, I said, hey, always have this available because it is really rich on being able to compare to the new stuff. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am. Yeah, if you're having any problems, your email should have had a link to get you to whatever papers you're missing. And if you don't have that link, give Janie a call, and she'll get you the link and answer any questions you have. But just give her a call. Anything else? Excited? Yeah, it should be really good. And no sweat on this stuff. I just go, it's just great to review it. When we get there, you'll just go, oh, now I know where we are. Or you'll go, oh, I still don't have any idea where we are. And it's either way, it's good, right? It's all good. It's on the website, but it is not GTI. GTI stays out of the insurance business. So it's on the website, though. Right at the bottom of the page, you can click on the link and, what's it called? TravelX? Right, there's two options, yeah. Yeah. Yes, ma'am. The question is, she doesn't know everybody's names, and Mike would like name tags.
Byron Perolo.
I'm Kathy.
Maria.
Steve.
Patty.
Natasha.
Yeshua. No, I'm kidding. Josh.
Jeff.
Angie.
Robin.
Di.
Kevin.
Wait, back. Janine.
Janine.
Mike.
Kathy.
Mary.
Tony.
Okay, the quiz starts now with you. Can you go start again?
Yes, no.
Tanya. Holly.
Joe.
Kevin.
Wanda.
Nevaeh.
Melissa.
Lori. And Melissa Noble's in the back. Are you alone? And Allie. Allie's hiding. Thanks, baby.
And Claire and Tim are there that they didn't get to say. They didn't want to. And then, so this is one of those ones, if you haven't been to all our meetings and that we've talked about, we'll be wearing lanyards with our names on them. And you'll have, your name will be on your suitcase and your name will be on your backpack. And so, because you're going to forget who you are. No. So, no, they're like we say, they're designed for a reason. So we have almost 40 backpacks and they all look the same. So one, you're like, oh, now you can figure out whose is who. And then two, it's nice, like when I'm walking behind you and I've forgotten your name and I what is this? What's Kevin's name again? I can't remember. Kevin. Oh yeah, I can see it. So I can go, hey Kevin, slow down, dude, you're going too fast. But it really does help. It helps our tour guide know you, and he's very fast. He will know all of your names probably by the second day. He's very quick. While me, on the other hand, I will almost know your name by the end of the trip. Right. Any other questions?
Yeah. Always know the troublemakers. Okay. So 6 weeks. 7 technically. Oh well. Who's counting? Haven't figured it out yet. We'll keep working on that. When do we want to meet again? Yeah. That's a Monday, right? That's the Monday after Mother's Day. Okay, so we tried to dodge Mother's Day. So it's the Monday after Mother's Day. 4:45. Do we want to meet here? Do we want to do Woodland Trail? Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna shoot to meet at Woodland Trail, which is Kevin's school, round school. Keep going on North Shore, just past that intersection. It's on the right-hand side. There's a parking area, but you got to have a forest pass, or you can park on the street. There's plenty of room to park on the street. So at 4:30. 15th, Monday the 15th. 4:30. Yeah, it's a little bit longer. It's a mile and a half. 4:30. We're moving it up. Yeah, and we're going to be here at 6. Yeah, sorry. No, Woodland Trail is on the mountain side of the street, and it's a loop. And it's got a couple spots that have a little elevation. The rest of it's just trail, and it's an easy walk, and it's in the woods, and it's pretty nice. And it'll be a little bit more than what we've been doing, but not a lot. So, if you're going to park in the parking lot or just park in the street, yeah, there's lots of parking on the street. So, and I would suggest parking on the mountain side of the street, so you don't have to cross North Shore on foot. That's not always easy. Does that make sense? Did we lose anybody on that? Okay. Yep.
Did everybody get the text?
And it's till the 15th?
15th. It's the yeah, okay. 2 weeks, yeah. Well, yeah.
Hey, you guys, I really want to encourage you to come on the hikes, even though they, for some, are not difficult hikes. As we talked today, Mike was doing some teaching out as we're hiking together, and it builds community. And so it was really cool. Like we stopped, and I just said, "Hey, look at the community that's going on. People are visiting with each other, learning names, learning people. So if you can come, bring your what's that little thing? Rucksack. Did I say it right? Rug. Rook. Is that Hebrew? Is it Hebrew? I don't know if you guys noticed, I've already started wearing my backpack. So feel free to do that. It starts to just get used to the weight of some sort. Yes, Patty. Is yours here, baby? The backpacks and your care package will be here about 4 weeks out before we leave. Oh, it's okay. I don't know. They ship them. They just show up, right? Somewhere around 4 weeks. I don't have control over the specific day. Anything else? Oh, yes, ma'am. The question is, what time do we generally leave in the morning? And when we're there on site, it's dependent on the sites. Usually it's wake up call at 7, be at breakfast 7:30, on the bus at 8:15, somewhere in that range. But for instance, if we're doing Masada and it's going to be a hot day and they say, hey, we're going to close it at 9 o'clock because it's going to be too hot. Well, then we might get up earlier so that we can get there in time so that we can do it. So we have a saying about how's that saying go, Mike, about the flexible? Yeah, blessed are the flexible, for they will not be broken. So I know some of you like to have a specific, like every morning we're going to get up at this time and that time. It'll change. We will tell you every night just before we get off the bus, the details for the next morning, and just don't be late. Joe.
Okay, just a informational question for me. How many of you guys know the story of Masada? Okay, so we'll take some time to share that with you guys, because that's a big story, and you'll get to see it up close and personal, and Ronan will no doubt tell the on-site stuff, but I want to give you a heads up on it, because it's one of the more dramatic stories, ties with the destruction of the city of Jerusalem, and yeah, it's an amazing story, so I will brush up on all the details for you guys. Okay? Kev, you want to pray for us? You've been doing a lot of praying tonight, so.
Dear Heavenly Father, we just bow our heads and hearts to you, Lord, as the excitement builds to learn your word and stand where you walked, Lord, where you sent your son to live a life of perfection, to die and rise again so that we could have an eternity with you. Father, bless this group and our time together, and as we go up tonight, Lord, that we would just focus on you and your word in preparation and love. We thank you for this time in Jesus' name. Amen.